utopic view of the idea that now we are going to proceed with. What is the question? Do you find any Gothic element towards the Handmaid's Tale? Of course, we find there are Gothic elements in it because something of it you just can't believe it, but you're made to believe it because you have to believe it. Understood what I told you? Gilead could be a word, right? That is Atwood's world. It is true. Gilead could be Atwood's world, but may not be a word. Gilead could be anything that is very practical that we see around us, and yet not practical. So naturally, what you have to learn, you have to study is, does any such world really exist in our day-to-day life experience? Now, do you find any Gothic element in Atwood's Handmaid's Tale? Again, we have to go to the synoptic study of this novel that we have already read in its various forms. When I explained to you, it was very easy. I understand. Explaining is easy, but sharing is very difficult, the thought process. If I start sharing with you, I'll have to start sharing with you in the form of the reality of the situation, and that is not possible. So, what I shall have to do to give a synopsis without too many spoilers, Atwood presents a world where the Caucasian CAUCASIAN birth rate has plummeted due to the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, pollution, and the pro choice movement. Following a terrorist attack in which the President of the United States is assassinated supposedly by an Islamic extremist, a military regime founded on Christian ideology rises to power and sets about transforming SWATs, SWATES, of North America into the Republic of Gilead. Maybe a dystopic concept. Women's rights are gradually taken away as they begin to implement a society in which women are defined by their fertility. Handmaids, as the few remaining fertile women, are assigned to the household of high ranking married official whose wives cannot conceive, a practice justified by the Bible story of Rachel and Leah, Caplaris, CHEL, and LEAH. Through a first person narration of Fred, a handmaid whose real name we never learned, Dip feeds the reader information so we can gradually piece together her story, learning that she lost her right to work her own property and her own property before a child was taken away from a failed escaped attempt. I told you her child was lost. Do you remember that? That was already told to you earlier. See, we again return to the same old story. So, why is it Gothic? When she's taken to Rachel and Leah, capital EH, the education center, to be assimilated into the regime as a handmaid, every aspect of her life is controlled. from the nun like red habit she has to wear to the food she consumes. Even the formulaic call and response form of language she uses is prescribed. Reading and writing is forbidden, thus turning something as innocuous as a game of Scrabble into a clandestine act of rebellion. The novel delights in word and play and dual meanings. Just take spell as an example. When this word can refer to the spelling of a word or a charm cast by witches, it perfectly illustrates the power of language and the fear of women using it for their own ends. The familiar trappings of the Gothic may be absent. There are no monsters, vampires, or zombies, no crumbling castles or ruined abbeys, but we do have an incarcerated heroine trying to escape our tyranny. Alfred is continually haunted by the past in a claustrophobic mechanical existence and references to the time before, about throughout the course of a stream of conscious narrative. Reminders of a previous existence or echoes of the past survive in spite of the regime attempt to control to destroy all the traces. The scent of flowers, the taste of cigarette smoke, or the sight of repurposed university buildings all have the power to trigger memories. And what makes the Handmaid's Tale scary is how quickly the familiar becomes unfamiliar. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'll be boiled to death before you knew it. You don't have to suspend your disbelief to imagine how easily it all could happen. Many aspects of the novel have happened at one time or are happening right now. We have gone through the novel, we know how the novel goes forward and backward and forward and in between. We get confused, and Atwood emphasized this very point during an interview about another one of her works of speculative fiction, that is Oryx and Crake, capital ORYX and Crake, capital CRAKE 2003, in which she said, as with The Handmaid's Tale, I didn't put it in anything that we haven't already done. We are not already in progress. The fact that Atwood collected newspaper cuttings whilst planning the novel to get a sense of the contemporary climate of anxiety is clear for all to see. Depletion of fishing stocks, disposal of nuclear waste, religious extremism, sexually transmitted diseases, reproduction, and the role of women in society are just some of the issues highlighted that are still as prevalent today as they were in 1985. So you see that the humiliating victim shaming of Warren faces, then the faces of women who are already being used by men. Having been raped as a teenager also stands out when factors including what the woman was wearing are so frequently reported in media coverage of rape cases. As a work of speculative fiction, The Handmaid's Tale tends to be discussed alongside texts including George Orwell's 1984, which was written in 1949, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, which was written in 1932, and P.D. James' Children of Men 1992 as opposed to a Gothic novel such as Matthew Lewis's The Monk, written in 1796, for example, but a focus on prevalent cultural anxieties is more often than not what defines and unites seemingly disparate texts as Gothic. That is not to say that The Handmaid's Tale is nothing else in common with early Gothic novels. The dangers of pseudo-religious enthusiasm really come to the fore in Atwood's description of the party persecution and in the way in which the collective anger of the handmaids is built up before they are let loose to tear apart a man accused of rape recalls the pulverization of the abbess at the hands of the rampaging mob in the monk. Even in the form, the handmaid tale makes a nod to origins of the Gothic novel, with the found manuscript having been associated with genre ever since Horace Walpole famously tried to pass off the castle of Otranto, 1764, as the work of an Italian monk. Atwood takes this trope, trope, and subverts it by shifting the metatextual content from preference to the afterwards, destabilizing everything we, as readers, thought we knew about Alfred. The historical news appended to the end of the text revealed that academics have pieced together the narrative from a collection of audio cassette tapes found hidden in New England attic. While this suggests that Alfred escaped Gilead using the underground female road, it also raises the possibility that the recording have at worst been faked or at best embellished, various names changed to protect the identities of these involved. So you see these very concept, the very idea of identity is unstable with the patronymic system whereby names are constantly being formed and exchanged by combining the possessive preposition of with the name of specific commander. You cannot name them. The ones are using all the bad forms of politics, bring back things, bring something which is for them is right, and yet you cannot raise your voice against it. If you try to point to anyone like what is happening now here with Mohua Moitro's situation, you say that because she's a lady and a lady, what do you call, MP, she can say anything and can say it's anything according to her choice. But if you charge her, then she'll say that I am raped in words, not raped physically, but with words. So the Handmaid Tale is also a unique Gothic dystopia compared to other well-known texts which might be categorized as such because of its female protagonist. In many ways, Atwood is responding to the feminist concerns raised in Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, a foundational text in terms of male control over female minds and bodies. Gilman's female narrator is controlled by a husband and a doctor, who constantly advocates that she remain inactive, quiet, and passive in a bedroom with a particularly irritating yellow wallpaper pattern. Notably, the story is set in a colonial mansion, a hereditary estate. I would say a haunted house as The Handmaid's Tale because it is a setting representing a conservative return to America's Puritan past. For both women within these mansions, an initial hatred for domestic captivity turns into an analytical obsession towards small details. The room in the yellow wallpaper is haunted like Rockford's room, where the previous handmaid hung herself from a chandelier. That we read in the story itself. You must have now forgotten the story. It was in the story. The traces of previous handmaids are constantly reflected on. The discovery of a small carving at the bottom of the closet wall becomes Opera's closest and only ally when she's cut off from the communication for both stories. The politics of writing is key, a fact which might bring us to recognize Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own as an early feminist declaration. One critic recognizes the recurring imagery of breaking circles in The Handmaid's Tale The tale may not be believable to us because we cannot think of such a word like the Gilead, as well as Atwood's other work, which symbolizes an attempt to break the boundaries represented by the suffocating circle of oppressed dystopian society, and together with it the circle of imprisonment represented by patriarchal politics, which she obviously and radically opposes. This circle, a cycle of horror, is also present in the yellow paper, where the protagonist at first fears the forms of creeping women she sees in the wall, but eventually becomes a creeping woman herself. Along these lines, neither story presents woman as blameless. The narrator's sister-in-law in the yellow paper wallpaper echoes the doctor's sentiments and does not promote the narrator's freedom. She's a perfect and enthusiastic housekeeper and hopes for no better profession. I verily believe she thinks it is the writing which made me sick. Similarly, the household wife is a constant threat to Alfred, ultimately more than the male commander himself. She wanted me to feel that I could not come into the house unless she said so. There's a push and shove these days over such toeholds. Nowadays, you say everything has to be kept in secrecy. Why? The reason behind it, the reason behind it will show you the reason that men in the top notches of the society can do anything they like. They are told to do because they are made to do, and they are allowed to do. So men can do certain things which is actually not allowed. Utopian, this is called the utopian world.